Hi, everyone. I'd like to give you a brief overview of the Formative platform, how you can manage your account, setting up your classes, assigning formatives to your class, and then looking over the data of your formatives of your class. To get started, we're just going to log into Formative. You'll use the sign in with Google option. Your students will also use the sign in with Google option. And once we get in, it'll take us right to the Formative home screen. And here you'll see your recent activities. Yours will look a little different if you haven't been in Formative, where your classes would be. And the last area would be quick links, which you can modify as you see fit. For now, we're going to head down to the very bottom there where it says My Account. And we're going to check out the account information. Just want to look this over. You can see that you can modify your icon, take a look that your name's correct, what you want your students to refer to you as. You'll see that you do have the Google sign-in set up. Down below, English for your language, position, and your grade level you're teaching, and also the subjects that you're teaching. You could put more than one. But that's your basic information. The next area you'd take a look at is the settings. And by default, it's set up as such for the notifications, and you could change that if you'd like. Below the notifications are the standards. Now, I currently have some standards in there because I applied some. By default, this will be empty. You can go ahead and click on this little button here to add standard sets prior to making questions, so they'll be in there. You could also do it when you create a question, though. You just have to search for your state, Pennsylvania, and look for the standards or the anchors that you want to add to your sets. So you just select whatever standard or anchors you're looking for and import that into your standard sets. Below the standard sets, you're going to have your scoring thresholds. And you'll see that you have a default point value for all your questions. Right now it's 1. You could change that if you like. Next, you have the default assign options. This will allow you to display each item on a separate page if you choose. By default, it'll all be on one page. After submission, the students will be able to see what answers they chose. And if you give feedback, they'll be able to see the feedback for each question. You could turn that off so they can't see that until after submission. Return the scores immediately. And returning the correct answers, they'll only see the correct answers after the formative has been closed for the class. So that's your basics for setting up your account. Next, we'll move on to importing your class and getting that set up. Okay, we're back at the home screen, and the next thing we're going to do is set up our classes. So from the home area, we're going to go down to classes. And since I don't have any classes, I have the option in the center here, but I also have it up top right. It says create. So for now, we're going to use the top one. We're going to hit create, and we're going to hit roster sync. We're going to sync with Google Classroom. So as long as all your students are in Google Classroom and up to date, it's going to pull them all in. It may prompt you to sign into Google again to allow access to your Google Classroom. And once you're signed in, it's going to show you all the Google Classrooms that you're part of. So if you have multiple sections, you can go ahead and check those. For now, I'm just going to select my one class. It's going to show you the students in that class. And I'm going to go ahead and hit import. That's going to put up the class you just see at the top there. That's my formative class that was now pulled in from Google Classroom. And now I can select the 3 dots and get some options. The first thing you're going to look at is the class details. From here, you can see the class's name. This was pulled in from Google Classroom. However, if I change it here, it only changes it in Formative. It does not change the class name in Google Classroom. So you might want to keep that the same. We'll check on our grade level. Check your subject. You can just kind of search for it too. Keep the Wilkes-Barre organization. Over here, you can customize the colors, the abbreviated letters. You could always import an icon too if you'd like. We're going to go ahead and update that now, and you're going to see the Formative Classroom change. Another really important option you're going to want to look at is throughout the year, students are entering and leaving your classroom. So you're going to want to be able to resync your Google Classroom with Formative so it's a current roster for you. Those three dots again, you'll see the option for Google Classroom Resync. So if a new student came into your class, as long as they're in the Google Classroom, we could resync. You'll see all the current students, and if a new student arrived, they'd have a unchecked box there that you would check the box and then hit import. It also works the same way if a student left and you remove them from your Google Classroom, there'll be a blank box there that you have to check to remove the student from Formative. So you might be using this feature a bit throughout the year. I'm going to click on the class itself now. You're going to see that there's some options in there, similar options. You'll see your students. You could select a student to see what they're doing. These current students don't have any formatives complete, so you're not going to see any data on them right now. But this is where it would appear. If I go back, I'm going to go up to the area that says More Options. And you're going to see it's similar to the three dots in the settings. However, there is a new option, which is to manage co-teachers. You can add a co-teacher into this Formative Classroom so they could provide formatives or look at the data with you. And you would just put their email address in there and invite them into this Formative Classroom. You can also do the resync from here and the More Options too for your Google Classroom. And that's really the main features for setting up your class in Formative. Next, how to assign a formative to your class. Okay, I'm back at my home screen, and now we're going to start to assign formatives, probably where you spend most of your time in Formative. So from the home screen, we're going to go into the activities. And what you're going to see is a list of all the activities that you have. Now, you probably don't have any right now. It will have the Formative Resources folder by default. So this is where your activities will all live. We're going to go ahead and create our first activity. So we're going to create a formative. Looks very much like a Google form. We're going to go ahead and name this. You can see it names it up top. It's autosave, so you don't have to worry about losing that work. And then we're going to look at a couple of the options on these formatives. The first one is really important. It's the tagging system for formative. And this is how you're going to find the data and run reports. Without the tags, it's going to be pretty difficult to find the correct data. So the tags that are available right now are, you could look at the academic year. So go ahead and change that to the 2025, 2026. You could go ahead and grade level, subject, and what type of formative it is. We'll be using an exit slip here. So really important you put those tags in. The other options are a little bit of instructions, if you'd like, for the students, and teacher notes. They would be for you only or a co-teacher. Students will not see the teacher notes. So if you want to look at something or recall something, you might put a little note in there for this particular formative. And then lastly, you could go ahead and customize the look of the formative. You can change color type. You could use the little graphics they have. You could upload your own image, or you could go to a Google search for an image. And at this point, you're ready to add your questions. There's a variety of ways you could do it. So you could upload, search libraries, import, the auto-generate, my favorite, or you could go old school and just create your own questions. See what that looks like. There's a variety of ways to add the questions. For now, we're just going to stick with the multiple choice. And just like a Google form, you could go ahead, type your question in there, type the answers, check the correct answer. There's my default 1-point value from earlier on. And there's some options for each question. For now, though, I'm actually going to use the auto-generated method. So I'll show you what that looks like. So we're just going to remove this one. And we're going to go right to the auto-generated. So we're going to keep it the multiple choice question type. And then right here is where you could enter your prompt for the AI to create the questions you're looking for. With some sentence structure here. Check your grade level, subject level. You can select your easy, medium, or hard. Languages, you have English, there's also Spanish and French. Your standards, again, we could go ahead and import our standards. We already have some sets if you did it earlier. If not, you would just do it right here. You just have to know what standard or anchor you're actually looking for. But you could apply that right there. And then you have the default number of questions. You could change that to whatever you'd like. For now, we'll remove the 4 and change it to 2. And we'll let the AI generate some questions. You always want to read this over because if AI creates it, there can be errors. So just double check, make sure everything looks okay. See it has the correct answer marked. And it gives you the options to make them easier, similar, harder, or you could also regenerate the questions too. I like what I see, so I'm going to go ahead and add these questions to my formative. And now with the questions, there are some different options you could use. The first one, I do like it. It's the answer choice explanation. So let's take a look at that. What it does here is it's going to allow you to put an explanation, or which I prefer is letting the AI give an explanation of why the answers are right or wrong. So if you turn that on, there it goes. The AI is going to provide feedback for why the questions would be marked correct or incorrect. So that's good feedback for your students. A couple other options here. You could do the random choice order. Not going to mess around with the partial credit. Show your work would be for math. Required, so the students have to take it. The show your work option would provide a little scribble area so the students could use their mouse to show the work for a math problem. You also see add a hint. I'm going to let the AI generate a hint. You could put a hint in there if you want it for the students, but the AI is going to try to provide one. Not bad. We'll go with this. And it will notify if the student does use the hint. So that will be there if a student wants to use it. The standards, again, if you apply them to it, you'd have the standard right there. And it's a great way to tag it to find that data later. It's going to go ahead and turn some of those features on this question. Not going to add a hint here. I like the way everything looks. So let's see what it looks like for a student. And to do that, you can go up to the preview. And we can make this full screen here. We'll pull it out. And this is what it's going to look like for a student. When they go into the Google Classroom and select the link for Formative, it's going to look just like this. So you'll see that the student's selecting the answer. It shows the left there. Number 1 has an answer for it. Continue on to number 2. Now I want to show you one more thing. I forgot to mention there's a little icon on the top of the questions where the student could kind of remind themselves to look back at something maybe they didn't understand or want to check it later. So if you put that feature on there, it will remind the student to take a look at that question before they submit. So put that on. And again, here's that hint that I provided earlier. So I clicked it, it will notify the teacher that you used the hint, and the student can write to the teacher in these little dialog box here, a little message box, and the teacher would see that. So we'll go down to hit the submit button, and here's that warning because I asked myself to be reminded about a question. I mean, for right now, I like it, so I'm going to hit submit, but it does remind the student to go back and check. And this is what the student would see at this point. They'd have their score up. So I'm going to close that preview tab, close that out, back to my questions. I'm ready to now assign this to my class. So up on the top right, the big blue assign button, we select that. It's going to allow us to check what Google Classrooms we want to send this to. And you have to make sure you check here. You have the big assign to Google Classroom button. But if you hit the assign button, that will assign it to Formative, but not to Google Classroom. You want to make sure you're using the assign to Google Classroom button. So now that's assigned, you'll see you have a little lightning bolt. That means it's open. And if I select the actual class here, the assignment, you're going to see you have the option for Google Classroom to add a topic to it. So if you're not familiar with the topics, in Google Classroom, they definitely help you keep your work organized. I don't have any in this particular Google Classroom, but I'm going to go ahead and make a topic in my Google Classroom now, and you can see how that will help situate the formatives in the Google Classroom. Okay, so I went to my Google Classroom, add the topics, and now you're going to see that if I click on that assignment again, and I go to the tags for the topics, you're going to have my exit ticket for ELA. You'll see that Google has updated this now, and it has put it under the category of exit ticket ELA. I'll X this out. Don't want to hit close. That'll close the ticket. And in my Google Classroom, you'll also see that the formative is now under the exit ticket ELA topic. This will help keep your exit tickets categorized and easier to find for both you and the student. And right up in the create section, you could add more topics if you'd like. Want to put them by date, by topics, by standards. I just created the exit ticket math, so you can see that I have another topic now to choose from. And that will just help keep your classroom and formative organized. Back at the home screen for formative, you'll see that I have my recent formatives up there. My class is there. You can see that I have a formative assigned to the class. The little lightning bolt means it's open. And I could select that formative right now, and if there was data there, I'd have data available to me. I'll take a look at it now. So from within here, I could select any student. I see none of them have started it. Nobody has any data there. The little lightning bolt's there showing that it's open. I could close it from right here. But what I want to show you is how this compiles live as students start to take this assessment. So I'm going to jump on the back end onto a Google Classroom with one of these test students, and you're going to see some things change. So right then, the Kistler test student has a little circle. That means that a student has entered the formative and is involved in it currently. As I start to answer some questions as a test student, you'll see them fill in. There goes question 1. You can see it fill in. Shows it's wrong right now, live. Now that doesn't mean the student submitted it yet, but they have chosen the wrong answer right now. We'll take a look at the next one. I changed the question just as a student looking at it, you can see that it's now 100% got the correct answer. Again, the student has submitted it. I'm just seeing them make changes live. That's question 2. We can see that it's wrong. And then the student will submit it, and that circle changes to a check mark. Just wanted to see what it looks like on the student's end in Google Classroom. So as a student, I could see that it's in the live stream, the formative, or if I go into the classroom, you'll see it's under the topic of the ELA. And if I sign in here, That's exactly what it looked like for a student going in. There's the formative. So I'll submit this. It'll show the student their score. They could go up and look at the question, but it's not going to let them edit the questions. Now you could turn that feature off so they can't look at it at all, and that would be an adjustment in the formative settings. I'll go over that in another section for you. Now we're just going to hit the return to homepage button, and then we can return to the homepage. Now this is the formative homepage, not the Google Classroom homepage. So the student is in formative here, and they could enter the formative class again and check on their assignments that they have in their formative class. From here, they could check on their activities that they have. If anything was not completed yet, it'd be here. If they needed to, they could take retakes if the teacher allowed it by clicking here. What they've submitted already, so they could check on their past formatives, check on the scores, and they could select a past formative if they'd like. Take a look at it. Since it's been closed, the scores are returned. And the practice sets are more like helpful study guides, flashcards, stuff like that. There is another section here. It's the tracker section. If a student does click on the tracker, they could see the standards that you have tagged to this particular formatives. So the student could go ahead and see how they're doing on a particular standard if they choose to do so. They can see what questions were tagged with it and look over the work. So now we're going to go back to the teacher end of it. Pull over my screen. Okay, from the home screen, we see the recent activities. We're going to go to the reports now. Now, by default, we have the formative set, and that's just going to show all the formatives that the students have been sent. And you could see them in order here. You could see the overall class score for each one of them. So you can see how the class is doing. You can see the particular individual scores for each student. Close this filter out. If you click on any of their scores, you will be able to see the data associated with that particular question. And the standards is also an option. So again, if you tagged your formatives with standards, you could break down all your formatives in by standards. So this particular standard here, you could see your overall class score. So you can see that we're in the 70s here on this particular standard. Another standard here. And if you would like, you could kind of break these down a little bit more from the main standard to the eligible content. So you can keep breaking them down just by clicking on this arrow here. And if you hover over, you'll get a little bit more detail on what that eligible content is. So this is a nice way to kind of oversee how your class is doing in all your exit tickets. And if you're tagging those standards to them, you're checking out how they're doing on each standard. That will help drive instruction. By clicking on some of these areas, it's just going to show the students overall scores on the particular standard, show the questions again associated with those standards. But just a good tool to see how you're doing as individuals or as your class is doing on a particular standard. If you head back up to the top, you'll also see that there's a progress option. And if I select the progress option, you'll see it's going to let me run a report. So this is kind of, I could do an individual or my overall class. You could choose your class. You could pick a certain date range. And it's going to go ahead and run reports on those standards. So you can see the total amount of questions associated with that standard. And then you could take a look at the overall scores for the total amount of questions. If you go over to the little right arrow here, you could pull up a little bar graph just to go back into your data a little more. Provides the dates for some of those anchors, standards. And you can see the actual formatives they were associated with. And again, you could click on these to open up those original formatives to go back to them. So you can see what question was asked. And now we're back on the actual formative. We've seen this screen before. It's just showing the scores for the students on that particular formative. You can click on them again, see how they did on each one, what they got incorrect. So there's multiple ways to get to that data. This is just one way. Back to our formatives, our standards again. And this is just some of the ways you could look at the data of your class or individual students on the formatives you've been giving them. So we're back on the home screen, and now we're going to show you how to add a formative into the library to give access to other teachers. And then we'll show you how to go ahead and acquire a formative that has been already posted in there from other teachers. So to start here, we're going to go into the activities again. We're going to create a new formative. Okay, we'll put our tags in there. Not gonna put any notes. We're gonna go ahead. I'll make it look like a math one. Gonna go right down to add question. We're gonna make this a multiple choice. Just do something like 2 times 2. Little bracket feature here. There's our question. Now we could do something like this: equals, plus, minus. Now, if you want to put another symbol in there that doesn't exist on our keyboard, you can go over to this little plus sign here and add the enriched content. I'm looking for the math, and I'm looking for the does not equal. So let's put that in there. And then I'll go right down to my options, and I'll put the answer choice explanation again. And then I will go ahead and require it. I'm going to go ahead and put a standard in here. Really important we put those standards. Now, since I've been using some standards, you'll get this once in a while recently used tags, so I don't have to go search through them. So I'm going to go my recently used. I know I'm using this one, and you can see if I hover over it, it's showing me what that standard is. So we'll click on this, and I will go ahead now and assign this. I'm going to choose my Google Classroom. Just again, some options on here. You can go ahead and schedule that if you wanted to. Again, with the schedule, it's a little off sometimes. So if you're going to schedule something for 9, you might want to put it out there for 8:55 a.m. You can put due date, time limits. I'm going to, after submission, I'm going to choose this to keep visible, but no edits allowed, so they can see what they're actually down to. Here, those accommodations again. Maybe some of these students need some accommodations. Let's give the Solomon student the text-to-speech and the answer choice reduction. Okay, so we're just going to assign and post that to Google Classroom. Now, one thing I've noticed as I'm assigning these... We just want to make sure by clicking on it again that we're assigning that topic to it so it could be found easily in the Google Classroom. If you don't see it there, just hit the back, and there's the topic. I'm going to go ahead and add it. So I'll add that math topic to it. And now it'll appear in the students' Google Classroom under the exit math tickets for them. Now I'm going to go back into my formatives. So I'll go to my assignments, and then you'll see I have a little box that you can check by each formative. So if I hit that, I'll see I have some options down below. A couple options here. You can delete it if you didn't want it. I'm going to be looking at the publish. This is how I'm going to get it into the library for other teachers. Just want to make sure your tags are in there because that's how teachers will find it, or they will find it by that standard. You're going to put it in the Wilkes-Barre formative. You could also apply it to your schools too. This will let everybody in Wilkes-Barre have access to it though. Check some of the other options. Your languages, if you'd like to add like Spanish or any other languages you may need. It looks good, so I could go ahead and publish this down. Let's make sure I updated anything. Okay, close this out. And that has been put into the library now. So there's a few ways to access questions for a formative. This method I'm showing you here is how to acquire just one question from the library. So we'll just put test. Okay. Again, you should be adding all your tags for time purposes. I'm not going to add them right now to this one, but we're going to go ahead and add that question, or we could search from the library. So we'll rate the search from a library, although you will see it here too. Library and item bank. I'll go search the library, and we have some filters over here. And I think the most important filter I can keep finding is this standard. So I'm going to go down and search for that standard. Here we go. I know I've been working with this, and you can see I have two formatives tagged in there. So if other teachers had those tagged in there, you'd be able to get on there from there, and we can go right to the main library too, and they're in the main library. So that's one way I could pull in my formative. I'll close that out, and you'll see that down below. There's the question, and it has the options already on it, and also has that standard tag to it. You still want to go ahead and put all of your tags in here though. You're going to want to do this because this will help you filter your own data. Okay, if you like it, you could go ahead and then assign that. Assign it to your class. And we can hit, remember, post to Google Classroom. Sometimes it takes a second for the topic to load. There it is. And now this appears for the exit ticket. And it is updated automatically then. So that's how you go ahead and get an individual question from the library. You could also, on my home screen, I'm just going to shoot down to the library here. And you can see that in here, they're already in there. I'm going to remove some of these. Close them all out so you have a blank filter. I'm going to go ahead and go right down to that standard again. So if we go, and I'll put the standard in here. Remember, I used it recently. So I can put it back in, and I will go to the private because I have it under Wilkes-Barre and the Wilkes-Barre formative. And you're going to see here are those again shared with other teachers and myself. And I could just choose one of these. And I could duplicate this so I get a copy. Add it to your formative list. So now if I go to my activities, you're going to have two of those in there now. Okay, so I didn't assign this yet. This is the one I just pulled because I didn't assign it. It's just sitting in my list. And this is, I mentioned this earlier on, that I could go ahead and just apply it right to my class here if I wanted to. Plus symbol. I could schedule it. I could post to Google Classroom right here. I just have to wait a second, and then this pops up. And I put out the exit math tickets, and there you go. So that way I just took the whole formative and put it in there instead of grabbing just a question from a formative. So two different ways you could pull from the library. Just a tip for some troubleshooting. If you ever pull in a student and their complete name isn't in there, you could just go right to your students from your classes and go ahead and manually type the correct name in to correct that issue. Hope this has been helpful. Please reach out if you have any questions.